Hi, and welcome back to another ET Talk. I'm Cole Camplese, Vice President for Technology and Chief Information Officer at the University of Texas at Austin. And today I'm joined by one of my colleagues that works with me inside Enterprise Technology as we sort of talk about one of the newest organizations that we've built. And the journey to get to this is what we're going to really focus on today, because I'm joined with Heather Hanna, and she has been at the university for 20 plus years now. But what's interesting is Heather used to build the tools and the technology that delivers some of the most critical, important work on campus. And about a year and a half ago, we sat down and designed a new organization that sort of puts her on the other side of that. And I want to talk about that journey and what that looks like for today's higher education. So, Heather, thank you so much for being on ET Talk today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we tried to do this once before.
I know.
And I think I was sick that day, and we had to postpone.
Did not work out.
Well, Heather, before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as you mentioned, been here. I just hit my 25-year anniversary.
So 25.
Yeah, it's insane to think that it's we've been on that journey for that long, but it's super exciting. And yeah, I lead the engagement and experience division of Enterprise Technology here at UT. I've worked in various areas on campus, been a part of a lot of really great projects, worked with a lot of really great people, and gotten to know a lot of people. So it's great.
Yeah, and I think that journey has, that 25 years, I can't believe we're both like 25 years. I'm not 25 years here, but in this field.
Yeah.
You've been, like you said, you've been in a lot of different places on campus, and you've had your hands on some of the most important technologies that drive this university.
Yeah.
How did you even get to the place where you were like, hey, technology's a space for me? Yeah. I'm really curious about that.
So believe it or not, I started at the university as a U-Temp.
You did?
I was a temporary worker at the university, and I worked for the IC² Institute.
Okay.
I guess I was there for several months, and then got a position with the Office of Accounting doing administrative work. Did that for a little while, and that parlayed really into moving into the help desk documentation and training component of financial information services. And so that really got me into the mindset of helping people interact with technology. And then, you know, I've benefited a lot from incredible mentorship and supervisors who gave me a shot.
Yeah.
And they gave me a shot on a project to implement new inventory scanners at the university. And it failed miserably. Yep. But I was completely hooked. Like that, I knew that that was the framework that I like to work in. I like teams, I like camaraderie, I like accomplishing goals, those kinds of things. And it really kind of changed that paradigm of how I helped people, right? So it was helping people interact with technology successfully. But then it became about helping business partners solve business problems through technology and playing a role in that, right? And getting to work with that bridge. It's the bridge, right? Mm-hmm. That's my sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think that when I first met you, when I first got here, what I was really struck with was this external facing perspective that you have, that the technology was only as good as the integration between the human and the system. Yeah. Like I could just tell that, well, it was easy. You were running a group called eBits at the time, and I noticed that your team had all the communications lined up. You were sending out regular updates. Like you were running an engagement organization within eBits. So what about like a project like Workday HR, which you were
a part of,
huge part of, and you finally realized that the technology is right, but there's something missing, right? Like when I was at University of Chicago and we implemented Workday HR, everybody on campus said, "Oh, I hate Workday," and my boss, who was the CFO at the time, would say, "I don't know why everybody still gets paid." What about like that moment did you say, I think that even though the technology accomplishes these goals, but there's something missing here?
Yeah, so I cut my teeth on the Workday implementation.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge implementation, and I ran the security component of that, and that was all about engagement. Yeah. We had to help individuals on campus move away from the security model that they were used to and how they assigned roles, and we had to move them into this new way of thinking about role assignment. So my role there in a lot of ways, was less technical than it was actually around engagement. It was about helping people understand the new paradigm. And so that's kind of where I cut my teeth. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that program and learned so much from everyone around me. I mean, that team, it doesn't get better than that. I
And
mean,
they
they
moved
were so
mountains.
hyper-focused. And we moved a mountain.
Yeah.
I mean, it was huge. So I cut my teeth there. I learned so much of that and then was able to parlay that into other areas. And I took that experience and was able to contribute to the benefit focus implementation. And then I was then able to really take a real leadership role on the UTWorks implementation.
So EBITS, when EBITS was a standalone organization, you worked in the CFO's office.
Yeah, that's where we were when we started.
And so you know the business systems inside and out.
Yeah, that's definitely my sweet spot in terms of the things I know most. And that, again, I know it a lot from, I've always taken that engagement perspective in terms of my understanding. I'm always going to learn a system from its UI. Because that's my perspective, because I engage with people and I'm looking to help people, and I have to see the system from their lens to understand it. Because I can't communicate back to them if I don't understand the way they see the system. And so that's always been my perspective. Again, and I see my role, and I even saw my role as a leadership in EBITS as more of a bridge.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't getting into the technical back end. That wasn't my role. We had people who knew that inside and out.
We have amazing
But my
engineers
role
that
was
do.
to try to bridge between our business partners who are trying to solve problems and solve those problems through technology. And so that's always been my sweet spot. That's where I like to be that connecting point between those two parties, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I do best, and that's what I've always tried to do, is to connect those dots.
So when I approached you and said, hey, we want to bring the two different enterprise platform teams together, but I have an interesting thought. What went through your mind when I was saying to you, because I was still pretty new, and I was a little transparent with what I was trying to do with the organization, but I kept it pretty close to the vest for the first 4 or 5 months. What did you think when I said, hey, Heather, let's think about this other thing over here?
I saw opportunity for sure. It took a little while to kind of figure out what that might look like, and we're still kind of
We're only
defining that
18
as
months
we
in.
go.
Yeah.
And there was definitely loss. The people I've worked with they're just they're great people. But I've met so many other great people.
Yeah.
So I saw opportunity, and I saw for the first time at an executive level that someone was really to invest in engagement. And I've been around long enough to know that is talked about on this campus, but to actually put some teeth behind it and create an organization dedicated to it is new for the university, and certainly not something that I had seen. So I saw that as a real potential. It also took me back a little bit to my roots, which was kind of appealing. This whole journey in my career started with the simple concept of helping people. And so I got to get back to the people who help people on a daily basis interact with systems effectively. And that's kind of where I started. So there was a little bit of that was kind of nice to think that I could get back to that place. But being a part of growing an organization that took along business relationship management practices and could really start to build out some engagement strategies around campus, I just saw it as a once in a lifetime. Like, it doesn't come around all that often.
No, and it's interesting to me because I just saw that EDUCAUSE, in their top 10 list of IT issues, trust, rebuilding trust, is at the top of that list. It's almost like we had a crystal ball, because I think it's important. Your position is AVP for engagement and experience. So what lives inside of that organization? Sure.
So we have our strategic initiative office, which kind of scratches the itch I have around projects, which is super awesome.
Which, again, comes from the ERP days of knowing you need a PMO.
Knowing that's a critical component of what we need. We have a strategic relationship office that they do a couple of different things. Some of it is around project engagement, but a lot of it is around building a business relationship management practice so that we can have engagement throughout all levels of the organization. And then we have our Tier 1, Tier 2 level support, We have endpoint management as well, managing our platform around endpoint management, and then the ServiceNow platform, which was a huge learning curve for me. That's not something that I had been, I wasn't super familiar with.
And what I find interesting is within your space, you're also the number one lead on the digital ID project.
I am.
And that's where part of the experience piece comes in.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because your tier 1, tier 2 also is a service desk, which also serves as the campus's ID center.
Exactly. So it was kind of the perfect intersection.
Yeah.
So, I have the Strategic Initiative Office under me and the ID Center distribution. So it made complete sense for me to take on a program director role and make that happen. Also, at its core, it's a change initiative.
Yeah.
We're changing the experience on campus for every single person. We're going to change behavior. We're going to change their relationship to the university. It's all about experience. And that's the number one driving factor on that project, student experience and elevating student experience. And everyone that I talk to, all of the areas on campus are so excited.
It's phenomenal.
To be a part of something where they actually get to implement technology that will improve student experience. There's not a single person that I've talked to that's like, you mean I want to do that? Probably don't do that.
It's a little strange to me because when we first started poking at this idea of going to the digital ID, part of it was around just athletics.
Yeah.
Right? Decreasing, because we have a large football stadium, large basketball. It takes students a long time to get in when they're pulling out cards and their phone and all those. And that was sort of the click, but we moved so quickly on that. Like you and your team were able to really rapidly assemble a defensible plan, multi-year plan to get us to the place. And what I find really fascinating is it was also the first program we took through our Enterprise Technology Executive Committee that you and your team have done all the work in standing up. And now that is my most critical link for engagement with the senior leadership here.
Yeah.
The gratitude I feel for that is enormous.
Well, I'm pretty proud of it too. So
you really should be. Talk a little bit about, because every place you go, everybody talks about the need for executive governance, but it seems to be one of the harder things to get out. What observations and reflections do you have on not just building it, but then watching it be executed as we've done it this year?
Yeah, I have been around long enough to see different perspectives on the value of advancements in IT at the university. We have not always lived in the environment that we currently live in, and the kind of the culture that you're continuing to work to cultivate, and the fabric, and embedding enterprise technology and IT advancements into the fabric of the university. It has not always been that has not always been the case.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to be a part of kind of a point in time where we have the CFO, the provost, the president, the COO, they're all see the value and understand where we need to get in the technology space. So having that leadership in place who's kind of forward thinking and sees the value that enterprise technology can add to the conversation means that it was ripe to set up the governance structure that we have.
Yeah.
I think had we been under other administrations and other players, it would have been more difficult.
I think you're right.
So having that, and so then it became about, let's make the most of this moment in time and create the conversation at that executive level that needs to happen so that we can figure out and have real conversations around how technology advances their priorities.
And I think that's the
thing,
the
right?
Flipping of that.
It's the flipping, and it's not about where enterprise technology thinks we need to go. It's about for us conveying to them how we can advance their priorities.
And their missions,
and
yes.
their missions, and where they want the university to go. And so that's the trick on the governance is of trying to be a part of that conversation and create that strategic partnership at the highest level.
And those linkages that have never really existed before. And I think that some of the willingness for our executives to engage just comes from the fact that technology has become increasingly embedded across the R1 landscape.
Absolutely.
I would challenge any of our listeners or viewers or however everybody's getting all this, to name something that goes on a university campus that does not have a technology embedded somewhere within its processes. The other piece, the engagement piece, the business relations piece, brand new. We're just getting that up and running.
Yeah.
I mean, year one, I think we said it would take us 2 full years to get eTech up and running, and we pulled it off in under a year.
Yeah.
And now it's about how do we sustain the momentum there.
Mm-hmm.
The massive changes you've done to the service organizations and bringing them together, unifying our communications in those spaces, incredible. The next frontier is the business relationship
That's
piece.
the real big one. And I want to say it's kind of the most challenging.
Really?
In a lot of ways, because building trust takes time.
Yeah.
It takes, consistent success. It takes, incremental partnership. It takes investment and resources and bringing on more relationship managers.
Yeah.
And it's not just with those organizations and partners outside of enterprise technology, but we have to build strong trust within our own organization.
Because we are a new organization.
We are a new
and
organization.
I think we as the senior leadership team have to constantly remind each other, like our SLT meetings are very much about how are we activating each other's teams to work together.
Yeah. And that's part of the glue and adding value and partnerships within our own organizations. And we're doing it every day, incrementally. I don't envision that this is some big, initiative that gets thrown down on the table, a gauntlet that gets thrown down. I mean, we change the fabric, the culture of the relationships within our own organization one step at a time. And it will continue to evolve. And our ability to provide value from an engagement perspective will vary team to team.
Yep.
It will vary project to project. It will vary partner to partner. There's not a one size fits all. And we also want to do in a way that doesn't threaten or break any of the relationships that anyone on enterprise technology already has, right? We're not here to replace that.
No.
We're trying to figure out where do we add value and step in those situations, and then also recognize they got this. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me because all of our colleagues, especially in the senior leadership team, we all have deep relationships with certain parts of campus. And one thing about relationships I've learned over the years is people try to protect them for very good reason, for all the things you said, the trust building and all of those things. But the ability for us to go from individual points of contact to group-wide understanding of what these areas need, I think is the next layer in this.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with that.
And I think sometimes we are upsetting our own apple cart internally when, Dave, great relationships with distributed IT. Absolutely incredible. Excuse me. However...
And works very hard to maintain those, by the way.
Very, very hard. And those people seek Dave out personally. So I'm curious, as you evolve this thing, how do you see the interplay between our own team that have those relationships and work hard to cultivate them, and then the relationship of the business relationship management team?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that we're working on. Some of that is through project work, because embedding some of those engagement experts in projects creates relationships within enterprise technology that are really, really critical. So that will be definitely a component of it. But part of it, too, is going to be just, working with division leadership to figure out where the pockets are and where they need help and where we can step in and help with them to kind of build that trust. We're also, building a model where our relationship managers will have groups on campus that they work with and start to build relationships with them and understand what their business needs are and where they have gaps and where they don't, and have a mechanism that we can feed that back to the technical teams to say, here's what we're hearing. Are we already solving this problem and it's a matter of communicating this out? Or is there a mechanism by which I can get this feedback to you so that as you're road mapping and you're work planning and you're doing all of that about what needs to happen, you can have this as input into where the best value for campus is.
Yeah, and I think that that's that layer that I think EDUCAUSE is talking about, the reestablishing trust. I think that we have gotten very good at managing the technology. But in a weird way, higher education's been really late to the party at the central IT organization around business relationship management. And I don't know how, with the complexity of this place, coordinated decision-making at the IT layer could ever happen if it's all these one-off conversations.
One-off conversations, yeah.
And making this systematic seems to be the right approach.
Yeah.
So you have another part of your organization that is really crazy right now with the ServiceNow implementations, re-implementations, rethinking, all the things. This is a new space for you.
Oh, completely new.
What has surprised you about, because I don't know if you use ServiceNow when you were in eBits or if you had a different platform, but service management is critical. UT Works is basically a service management platform. What have you discovered through this like last 18 months working with that company, your own group, and campus?
Yeah. So I think, people's perspective of ServiceNow varies depending on who you talk to and what level of engagement they've had with it. I'll be honest, I think that the team for ServiceNow has been handicapped in some way by not having someone at the executive level fighting for them and the ideas that they have. I think they've been, it's not gotten the light shown on it in a way that it needs to. I mean, my conversations with them, they have all the ideas. They just haven't had the avenue or someone to say, yes, we're doing that.
Like to create the space
to create the space
agency.
to do, in the agency to do it, and to say, when we're doing a whole ServiceNow reimagined project within our area, and we're revamping our service catalog, and we're revamping our knowledge, and we're we've got a brand new look and feel to our ServiceNow.
Yeah.
It's like, this is no longer going to be the thing that nobody pays attention to. We're going to pay attention to it.
Good.
And we're going to shine a light on it. And I've said that we're going to do it, and I told you we're going to do it, so we're going to do it.
That's right.
Thing. But and a lot of that comes down to just giving them the support that they need to be successful, but also saying that, there's going to be standards.
Yeah.
We're not going to let everyone do everything the way that they've always done it. We're going to have to, if we're going to create a consistent campus experience,
that's right,
which is what our portfolio is responsible for, a good, consistent experience that they can rely on and understand and accept. We're going to have to be disciplined in our approach to reimagining what ServiceNow can be for the university.
And that's the interesting balance of running the enterprise technology, not the organization, but running enterprise technology across a campus, is thinking through the discipline and making it rigid until there's friction.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's always a big problem. Like when we talk to Cam Beasley, our CISO, like he's always living between the line of like, I'm going to make it as secure as I can right up to the line where it starts to impact work. I think it's a similar sort of thing on campus. And the cognitive overhead of the inconsistencies, if I take it into a physical manifestation, I think about classrooms on a college campus. And you walk in and some rooms have light switches. Some have Crestron panels. Some come out automatically. And these are barriers. That's campus experience. So our faculty have 15 weeks to get through things, and they leave one room and go to another, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that all of that is part of this. And what I love about what we're getting to do is we're getting to echo our administration's insistence on doubling down on the student experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of campuses give it lip service, but I could rattle off a number of projects that your team is leading that is locked right into that experience layer. I think digital ID is probably the most visible.
Exactly.
But down to the ServiceNow interfaces and knowledge base articles and the ability for self-help we don't need people calling to ask how to get on Wi-Fi when the answers are there.
Right, exactly. They need to be able to find that efficiently and effectively. and let our talented staff focus on the things where their input and value is really contributes in different ways and new ways, and they can be part of that conversation. But if it's a tier 0, meaning you can just find it self-help wise, then let's do that. Let's find that way, and then have our frontline staff handling the really complicated issues,
the stuff that matters,
the back and forth,
and that can invite further engagement.
Exactly,
and
engagement.
I mean, that's the interesting value chain that I don't know that we've figured out how to unlock yet, but the phone calls, the tier 2, tier 3 that come in should be leading to, why don't we come to your office and have a conversation about that?
Yeah.
So they start with a problem, but your solution is to actually understand them.
Yeah.
And get there and talk to them.
I would love for their role for the university is not to provide answers, but to provide engagement opportunities. Yep. Like, I'm not going to, if there's an answer,
really
goes to tier
to
1, like tier 0. If you just need an answer between AI and knowledge articles and documentation, if you just need an answer, there you go.
Right.
But if you need real help, I'm a retiree and I cannot figure out Duo. I've tried and I can't. You need an engagement opportunity with that retiree to help them over that hurdle.
Yep.
And that's where, at the end of the day, you hang up that call and you've done something really great.
Well, I really love the idea that you're pivoting support toward engagement.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nuanced differentiator there that goes along with the relationship management. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think restores that trust. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned AI.
Yeah.
And I'm relatively interested in AI, so I do have to ask you a question. We had a retreat as a senior leadership team about 3 weeks ago, I think. We're having another one next week. Mm-hmm. We all made commitments. And what I felt was interesting about that conversation that we had that day was that the commitments were for us to activate AI within our own teams. Mm-hmm. How are you seeing your staff, the folks that report to you, leveraging Claude, OpenAI, M365 Copilot, and the other tools that we've licensed to transform their own internal work, to do work differently?
Yeah, our Strategic Initiative Office uses it all the time. We are constantly in presentation mode. Our role a lot is to take data related to a project and make it accessible to executive leadership or project teams or those kinds of things. So we've been leveraging those tools for the last 3 to 6 months to try to expedite that process. Yep. And so our PMs are spending more time solving problems associated with the project, which require engagement and relationships and conversation, rather than producing documentation for these various meetings that need to occur. So that's been a huge win, I think, in terms of our Strategic Initiative Office and our relationship office.
Well, it's allowing you to iterate so much more quickly.
Yeah.
Like the things that Stephanie turns around so rapidly from a document. And I think that there's so much chatter about like agentic AI and all these other things, but where we're really starting, we said this is day 0 with AI adoption in the organization, and it took me back to saying, okay, how do we encourage people to use it on the smallest task first and then scaffold up to something more complicated? Yeah. And I think that's some of the most relevant adoption advice people can get with AI right now.
Start with what you know.
That's it.
Start small. You don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to solve all the things. Have a conversation with it. Ask it to do something. When it's wrong, fix it. It's a real back and forth.
It really is, and I think that one thing that will become more interesting as we go through more transformation is the fact that our teams in enterprise technology across the board know so much about the business practices, sometimes as much as the business does. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we know it at a deeper systemic level. I'm curious to see how we start to unlock the power of AI when our teams get confident in using that knowledge to help those other members of the community to solve their own problems. Yeah. And I think that's what will guide us closer to this idea of like a self-healing campus where if the interface is broken, people can build around it.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting. Okay, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
I believe that what you have started to build here will become a trend in other large R1 institutions. I've seen it at other places. I had a similar office at Northeastern. It's really where I got my hands around this idea of bringing these kinds of organizations together. So there's probably going to be somebody who's like you out there, who has had this technical career leading technical teams, and some goofy new CIO is going to come to them and say, hey, I want you to stop working with machines and starting working with people. What would you tell that person that you wish someone would have offered you with advice as you started down this path 18 months ago?
Man, I would remind them that at the core of, in my opinion, in the core of engagement and experience is helping people.
Yeah.
And all of the frameworks and the practices and all of the things that you want to put in place, they all have to boil down to that one thing.
Yeah.
How are we helping people?
Love it.
And it's simple.
It sounds so
It's
simple.
simple, but it's the barometer.
And it's the service mindset.
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
if you're not doing that, then why bother?
Well, I love it because I was at an event earlier today and I got to hear President Davis speak, which is always great because you actually get to hear what he's really thinking about. And he talked about that at the end of the day, it's about creating that one relationship and being in service to those people, with our hospital project, with the curricular changes that we have coming. Like all of these things are about engaging people where they are.
Yeah.
And I think it's good advice, Heather. And I think you're
so.
going to end up winning this race here at UT. I'm really proud of the work that you've been able to do, and the team is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I got a good one.
You really do.
It's a good team.
And
they work really hard.
I know you
and
had
fight
to
the fight.
let a few behind, but you've brought so many more
I get
forward.
to chat with them
I
every
know you
once
do.
in a while.
So Heather, thank you so much for being on ET Talk.
Happy to. Thank you for the invite.
All right. Well, thank you. So thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, and joining Heather and I in this conversation. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Welcome.